be honest with y'all. When I think about my tax dollars, I more so think about the local economy, right? Think about how much of that is impacted. Roads, schools, stuff like that. I'm not really thinking about whatever percentage they take out for federal taxes. And I don't know, man. I just think it's kind of crazy, man, that we pick and choose what we care where our tax dollars go. I've been having this argument for years with people that I believe that we have a lot of wasteful spending. I believe that we could find ways to make cuts, but like this is where we had the idea of small government in a nation of what, close to 400 million people. Man, come on, man. Like, it is what it is. It's a lot of wasteful spending. It's America, though, man. We got a lot of fucking luxuries. Even the people that are in the struggle. People on this have love to tell people that are poor in America, oh, at least you're not in another country. So even for poor people in America, it's a lot of advantages that we receive. So it's like, it is what it is. NPR is helpful to some Americans. Have you ever thought about it from that advantage? From that vantage point?
But Rob, the thing is, it's like it's government employees signing, like using our money for their own needs. In this case, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know the specifics, but when you had like $500,000 worth of subscriptions, from government employees going to, objectively, that's supposed to be an objective news place, by the way. So it's like our money is going to something that we all shouldn't be going. Like, money shouldn't be going to, in theory. You think that's actually problematic, right? Like, I can see some money, but not like millions or whatever.
I get it, but it's like, man, a part of me just doesn't care, Matt. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like that's so low on the totem pole of issues we have as Americans. Like, I feel like that's just, people love to throw out everything's a distraction. I honestly think this Doge shit is a distraction because a lot of the shit that they're finding is money that's already been spent. So yeah, you could say, all right, we're not going to do this again, but you're not going to recover that money.
Dude, that's not true. I don't know. Do you even go to x.com/Doge? They're finding contracts in the tens of billions that they're getting out of the system and canceling.
I didn't say that everything is money that's already spent. So let's be clear about that. But this ain't me just rambling shit. This is out there. That a lot of this shit that they're finding is money that's
again, do you go to x.com/Doge and actually look at what they're doing a forensic accounting of and taking screenshots from the purchase point of sale system or the contracting system that they're using? It's all SAP software. And I mean, they're actually discovering all kinds of fucked up shit nonstop.
So, Rob, real quick.
And has Congress officially removed the shit, though, honestly? Like, Doge is just...
Well, I think they're canceling it.
Congress is full of cowards.
Well, I agree. I think Congress should be doing this job that Elon's doing, but why would the people that are doing the crimes, doing the investigations on themselves, this is never going to happen, So, let me ask you this. This happens all the time on this app, is that you will say, well, yeah, we need to, have some cuts and some things, taken care of, like cutbacks and what have you. But then there's always a but. If nobody's doing it, then you can't say that line. We actually have.
Where is the money going? Where is are they gonna pay the debt off? It does.
No.
That matters to me.
Wait.
Because we're making such a big deal about. All right, we're gonna cut this spending.
We gotta start somewhere.
This spending. So what happens?
Do you admit that we have to start somewhere versus not doing anything?
I don't believe what they're doing is anything. How about that?
So you're saying that any money that we save is not doing anything?
Because they're gonna keep spending money.
Okay, and where's that spending coming from? This is the very thing that we're looking into. You see how that works? It's like we do a lot of talk, right? We do a lot of talk.
Where these tax cuts gonna come? Who's gonna pay for these tax cuts?
And by the way,
that's what I think all of this shit is for. for the tax cut.
I'm not saying this is the answer. Like, I don't have a crystal ball. There's no way that we all know what's going to happen. But there's somebody doing something. That was my point. And maybe that doesn't register or whatever's going on here. But with a lot of you folks, I've been arguing this all day. Is there's actually someone doing something about it, at least trying to. You know what I mean?
All right, let's say this, man. Let's say this, man.
The first president to talk about this. I mean, don't we have Clinton on record talking about cleaning up and cutting the
Every
waste? Don't we have
president talks
Obama
about
on record saying he's going to cut?
Every president talks about that.
Right. So we finally have someone doing it, just like other stuff that other presidents talked about that never accomplished, and Trump did. So now you have him actually doing something that the other presidents are on record saying needs to be done. So this is not like an unpopular thing.
But he's not doing
We've
anything.
We've elected other presidents on the understanding that they were going to go in and clean up government spending. It's not the first time. You just have someone actually doing it, and people are so afraid handouts are going to stop, and they're going to stop. And there are things we're paying for we shouldn't be paying for. There are things we should be paying for, and they're going to go in and assess it and figure out, and some things should continue to be funded. But you gotta start somewhere, which is what he's doing.
You guys are comfortable with somebody who receives government contracts. Y'all don't see that as a conflict of
Someone
interest?
who receives
government
contracts.
He's talking about Elon. Here we go with this.
I'm just asking.
So how is he benefiting? Could you tell me how he's benefiting himself right now financially with giving himself money? Like, how has
I don't think he's benefiting anything. I'm just saying. I'm saying if you were auditing your company, right? Let's say that if you were auditing your company, you wouldn't possibly want somebody to audit who has a potential conflict of interest. Just a potential.
Have you seen any evidence to show that he's done something to benefit himself or his own company? I don't think he's benefited himself. I think he's benefited.
The White House.
I think he's benefited Twitter definitely. I mean, simply by those being rooted on Twitter or X, whatever we call it now.
Can I ask
You asked how he has benefited himself. I'm giving you.
How is he rooted money?
I didn't say that he's rooted money. I didn't say he's rooted money. What's up, big guy? Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you see what Trump is doing in the past couple of weeks since he's been president, right? He's been cutting waste and spending inside of the government. How do you feel, right, about cutting waste inside of the government? Like,
We got to see what's considered waste. We have to see what's considered waste. I think
Matt, what you said?
we have to figure out what's waste.
Matt, I didn't hear you. Matt said something?
But no, I've already asked Rob this question. He says it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So Rob, basically,
I'm saying, I use the example of NPR. So dig this, big dog. I use the example of NPR. So let's say the number is they're getting 3 million, and let's say we cut that 3 million. Like, how is that going to benefit us as a taxpayer?
all right, so listen, this is the problem that I don't think you're understanding. When you have a government, right, and you have different entities of the government where, right, and they're creating entities, right, sometimes we're not tracking the money. The Pentagon alone is stating that they're spending trillions and they don't know where it's going. That's a problem. To the taxpayer, we're the taxpayer. We're the people paying that money. One, then you got to think about, if Tony, you want to say something? My bad, I'll mute up.
No, I was just going to say, or they lose it. A lot of this money just gets lost, and then nobody has any explanation as to how trillions of dollars just vanished.
But a lot of times, it's the reason why the money is getting lost.
It's not lost.
Hold on, Rob. The reason why it's getting lost is because just like what happened with Ukraine, you have some people in our government that might genuinely want to help a country, right? But the military-industrial complex is a lot of money, tanks, artillery, bullets. You got to think about clothes, socks, boots. Everything is money. You understand what I'm saying? That's a check, and people are in power, they get to choose friends and they get to, cut checks. It do affect
All right,
the
so
taxpayer.
look, let me say this. If you had framed your question like, now if we're talking about cutting defense, whatever you call it, military, I think that's where the cuts can be made at, where we can actually see a significant change. We
But
can
we
see
have to
some of
cut
those tax
everything.
dollars go into, I mean,
We have to cut everything. The reason why, so look, I understand why you might
what is
not,
everything?
not too much of Medicaid. I'm not saying Medicaid, but you understand what I'm saying? They do need, even with our education is too much is on it that's is like extra baggage that doesn't need to be there. You understand what I'm saying? If we could introduce other things like trades, right? Robotics, right, at an earlier
It's
age.
gonna cost.
It is, but it's going to be beneficial to the generations. You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
do agree with that.
Yeah.
I think we could reallocate funds.
Right.
That's fine, but it's like when it comes to education, I think education ought to be damn near viewed as a matter of national security. Like you don't want a uneducated
How
population.
do you fund education on the local level? Do you happen to know
I mean,
how it's done?
Actually I do. Actually I do. They're funded by in the state of Texas.
Rob,
In the state of Texas.
Rob,
I'm gonna answer a question.
Don't get
I can answer a question.
Word out?
Go ahead. No, I can answer a question. I know.
Town, can I get a word out? In your town, you got a public school, probably within miles of where you live. How do you think that's funded?
It's funded by local property taxes,
Thank you.
business taxes, things of that nature.
So owning a house is a good thing, right? You're paying towards property
Yeah, I
taxes
believe so.
for School, right?
I believe so.
And what's the oversight on the spending for that school? Like the cost of per student to go to the school, or even if that school happens to
In the
have.
state of Texas, they
Wait,
spend approximately close to 7,000 per student.
Okay, yeah, so, and there's probably sending districts too. There's probably areas near that school that don't have a school, so there's municipalities that have to pay per child to send children to that school, right?
That would probably be more in the rural areas of Texas.
A rural county, a rural area that doesn't have a regional school that has to send to the school that's closest by, and they have to pay per student, right?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so who oversees all that?
That would be our Texas State Board of Education.
Go smaller than that. So wouldn't you have
And then
like
you
a
can
county
go your
school
local-
board or
School boards, things of that nature. That's who oversee. What are you trying to get at, my friend?
I'm trying to say that's how it's run. That's how in a lot of jurisdictions you have the local school board overseeing what's happening at the school, what the expenses are of the school. You know, you have local people with interest. Those same local people are also paying the property taxes. They don't want to pay $30,000 a student because someone's not keeping control over the expenses at the school. Do you see what I'm saying? There's like local interest protecting local people.
Well, I'll ask you this.
That
What
works.
state are you in?
I'm in Nevada
That's how
and
it works.
Pennsylvania.
That's how it works.
Both in Nevada.
That's how it works. That's why.
Yeah. So and then you have places.
That's why the idea of them telling us that we're going to send education back to the states is kind of foolish. The states already.
Whoa. So
Well,
why is it again?
well, the states
Rob.
The states already handle education.
Right, but Rob, my point is the person paying the property tax that doesn't want to pay double property tax is probably sitting on your school board and is overseeing what's being spent. And if they decide to build a high school that's like the Taj Mahal, it doesn't make sense, right? Because it's going to end up hitting every property owner in property tax just for the cost of per student. So
Abby,
someone's
you know
going
what
to
I would say
control
to
it.
that? You know what I would say to that, Abby?
You're hearing the logic of this, girl?
What I would say to that, Abby, in terms of your local school board, generally they have very low election turnout numbers. This is just across the board. I can speak specifically for Harris County, where I'm from and live at, but I can say across the board, school board elections have very low voter turnout, whether you're in the red or blue district.
It's a shame, but
So,
my point
I would
I
say-
could make to you
I would
is
say
who's got the most interest here to keep the cost of education in check, who's got the most interest? It's the people in the locality that are paying the taxes to fund the facility, to fund what the enterprise is. So who's going to have more of that interest? It's going to be localized for education, not on a national level.
But that's how it works. That's how it's always worked. We understand that the Department of Education actually does more for higher education than it does for K through 12 education. When it comes to the Department of Education, when it comes to like K through 12, we understand about Title I schools, generally rural and inner city schools who don't have the tax base to necessarily compete with some of the other schools. That's where that funding comes in. Special ed programs, IEP programs, things of that nature, kind of oversight, making sure that things like
you know who gets hurt are the rurals.
Who gets hurt?
The rurals.
Well, yeah, that's.
Let me tell you why. Because they don't have the budget to build the high school, and let's say they have to send their kids to a regional high school that got built like the Taj Mahal, that got overbuilt, that maybe an urban high school that they decided to build some major facility, and now you're in a sending district in a rural area and you're paying 20-25 grand per student. So you also get into the issue of school choice. Wouldn't that sending district want to give the option to those residents to not have to pay more property tax and use their funds to send their kids where they want instead of the
I can't speak for your state, but in my state, something that's very interesting in my state legislature, state government, rural Republicans and the blue cities, Houston, Austin, Dallas, blue Democrats have banded together fighting against the school vouchers program. Number one, because there's already school choice in Texas. In every school district, there's school choice. My son, who's 16, he was able to participate in the school choice type situation because we were able to get him to the school that we preferred him to go to. It was a school in district. It's just not the school he was zoned to. So school choice is already there. The voucher system, as proposed by the state of Texas, again, I can't speak for the state that you're from, but I can only speak where I'm from. The voucher system is losing a lot of steam. Let's say that Greg Abbott is getting a lot of opposition, and it's not just from the blue guys. Let's say that. So there's a lot of information, and I'll tell you just for some background. I worked on a project with someone this summer, helping them complete their master's program, and their final essay was centered around school choice and the voucher system. We did a lot of extensive research, about 2 months, really going into the background, figuring out that the voucher school system has been around since around 1827. It isn't a new concept, but there's some evidence that's showing that it works per se, but more evidence shows that it actually does more harm to rural schools particularly and inner city schools, which is why, like I said, in my state, I can't speak for Nevada, but in my state, they're locked in together. It's actually something that you don't see often in Texas.
I'm gonna just jump back in because I see this as, we're just not gonna agree on this, but I just want to make sure I got your take on all this. Is that the government and what Doge is doing does not help you out at the local level. That's your argument, right, Rob? Like the cutting of waste fraud, in our opinion,
It doesn't. I don't see it help on the local level, and I don't believe it's going to do anything that's going to benefit us on the federal level. If they were showing us that this money that's being saved is going to go back into infrastructure, we know that our roads are failing across the United States, bridges, things of that nature. We need to embark on a 1950 style program. When we implemented the interstate highways, I think we need to implement something like that. So if some of that money was being diverted to programs like that, which would bring forth a lot of jobs and a lot of economic boosts to various places, including rural America, because I don't want to just speak for inner city Black America. I know a lot of people in rural Texas, and just other places in rural America, and they have the same kind of concerns that I have, and they don't look like me. I'll say that. So just want to say, man, I don't know, man. Like I'm seeing a lot of evidence that a lot of people, maybe not you guys, but a lot of Trump supporters aren't as happy with some of the results that they're seeing. But I mean, it hasn't even been 100 days.
Yeah.
So I want to give them some time for the record. Although I'm not
high approval ratings, Rob.
I saw something around 51, 52. You might have saw something different.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I saw record high.
Crazy.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah, 51% is very high for a president.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, that's about what you would expect. 51% of Americans seem to have voted for him. He won with it. It wasn't like a complete landslide, but he won. So I would say that there's some
very high approval rating, Rob.
And did you see that the Democrats' crash rating was extremely low?
Yeah, it's like 20%, maybe less than that. I mean, I don't think anybody here on stage is saying we have all the right answers, Rob, right? And like we don't have a crystal ball. They'll go ahead and look forward, however many months and years that we're doing this to see who's going to be in the right. If Trump's, cutting of waste and fraud, in our opinion, is going to work out, or is it going to be better with what you're saying that was, not the case, that it did turn out to be a bad idea doing Doge and what have you. But the thing that always just throws me off, and I keep going back to this, I just can't get over it, because all day long I've been told that that doing something about it is a bad thing. I'm just trying to figure out why people have this mindset that at least someone's trying to fix something. And to me, it just baffles me that people will push back against something like that. I don't know, Rob. I guess we're just on two different planets.
I'll give you this one. If this was Trump's first term, let's erase whatever happened in 2016, and let's erase the fact that he's actually contributed to the deficit that we're in. He's not responsible for the entirety of the deficit. We understand that. He was only in office for 4 years, but he definitely contributed to it. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one fault of Trump, to say he's contributed to it, yeah.
So for me, as somebody who understands that, it's hard for me to believe that when I've already once seen that you've done the contrary. You've actually contributed to the deficit when you did have an opportunity. Although I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that COVID happened. I mean, it changed a lot for a lot of people. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I won't give him the benefit of the doubt on the fact that prior to COVID, his spending was on par with any other president. So it's very hard for me to listen to this when I hear Marco Rubio say things about spending and cutting in USAID, and then I personally did this. I went and I looked up Marco Rubio's previous comments on USAID, and you guys can do this yourself and just see what he said, because his statements as recent as 2023, where he speaks highly of USAID. So it's like, when I see that type of stuff, I kind of think it's laughable. If our Congress, if this was being led by a bunch of first-time congressional members and senators, who haven't contributed to the spending, I would have no problem with it. But when I see John Cornyn of Texas, what's my other, Ted Cruz, those type of guys, you guys have contributed to this.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't believe it.
I have. You been trying to get off the mic.
Yeah, he have. Hey man, how are you? Hey Abby. So Rob, I want to step back a little bit. In less than 5 minutes, I'm gonna put the problem in perspective. This is not about white or black or brown or yellow. It's about America going bankrupt. And I'm gonna give you some numbers. Those numbers you can fact check me so you understand where we go. The United States of America today has $37 trillion in loans. We owe people $37 trillion. people we owe are domestic people, banks, people, and foreigners. China, England, Japan, France, etc. Those $37 trillion, we pay every year $1.2 trillion in interest. We pay 1.2 trillion on interest. The total income of the federal government today is around $4.4 trillion. So think about that for a second. We pay 25% of our income every year as a government, as a federal government, as an interest on the loans that we owe. We did not pay the loans yet. We pay just the interest. Very good. We have $2 trillion every single year budget deficit at the federal level. So we borrow $2 trillion every single year. If the projection continue in 2029, which is not far around the corner, we will be paying with the loans we owe people will be around today 36, 49 will be around $50 trillion. We will be paying 50% of our income as a federal government as interest on the loan. If that trend continue in about 15 years from now, you and I, Rob, will be going to the grocery store, paying for the pound of orange $20. Everything we owe today will be worth nothing. We will be bankrupt. We will be owned by China. China today used the $1 trillion in trade deficit to purchase land and purchase our companies today. America's future is really bad. So, now, to solve this problem, you get two choices. First of all, you have to stop the bleeding by, one, close the budget deficit. How you do that? Either you increase your revenue or you reduce your expenses. What is the revenue for the federal government? Two things. Actually, three things. One, income tax that I pay as an employee in any company. Payroll tax, which is a company that I work for, pay on my behalf. Three, corporate tax. Those are the companies that pay their corporate tax. Good. So in order to increase the revenue, the federal government has to increase taxes. That's not something that we want to do, because that's a burden on me and on you and on everybody. So you have to look at the other part of the equation, which is what? Reduce expenses. We've got to reduce expenses to stop that $2 trillion budget deficit every single year. How are you going to do that? This is where Doge comes in. Anything we spend as an American today that does not benefit American people has to stop. I don't give a shit about sending money to Ukraine. I don't give a shit about sending condoms to Gaza. I don't give a crap about opening a trans clinic in India. I don't care. I care about Americans. That's what we need to do. Every dollar we can save, we have to save. Or all of us and our children and grandchildren will pay the price.
You know what I believe though? I believe that Trump is doing a good job with the criminals. Especially, I just think that though, we probably should be a little bit more harsh on criminals. Just a little bit more harsh.
And I would make the argument, I appreciate what you just said, but and he left the stage because I was going to refute specifically what he said about Rubio, because I just read Rubio's old remarks. Rubio's been a very strong proponent for foreign aid, and the importance of foreign aid with respect to developing nations or stopping disease or uses that benefit us in foreign policy. When he was asked about this with his recent comments, he was very clear that the whole thing dramatically has to change. And then we go back in and we see what is good expenditures and smart expenditures of our money and what is not. So the concept of no foreign aid is not something that works for America. We have a history from the beginning of our nation of having a relationship outside of just our borders. But it has to be smart, and it has to be audited, and it has to be looked at. And there was a lot of waste, and things that you were speaking about were wasteful. But there are very important aspects of foreign aid, especially with respect to stopping disease and some of these countries that we have been effective. We've also used it as leverage for some bad nations to get them in check and get them in line so that they have obligations to not become problematic for us. There's different. I can go through all the arguments on it, but he left the stage. So
Abby, the problem, Abby, here is this.
So wait, just let me say the last thing and then go on. So it's always bad to make a global statement. All foreign aid is bad, or all of what someone's doing is bad. You just break it apart as to there are components that needed dramatically to be cleaned up, and that's what's happening. But as a position for our country, there are reasons. We have commerce that happens internationally that we police and we patrol, and there's a reason that shipping vessels that are getting shot at, that we will protect them when they're in the Persian Gulf. We're protecting them because it inures to our benefit as a nation. So, again, I'm just saying, be careful always to speak about something in absolutes and qualify it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. My problem here is this, that we doing that with money that we don't have. So we go borrow money and take that money and assist others.
What percentage is it of our budget?
Right. So okay,
what percentage?
Very good. I tell you. So if we have $2 trillion in deficit every single year, that's a number you guys can go and fact check me. We spend the budget for U.S. aid and others. U.S. aid alone is about, I think, for around $50 billion. So 50 out of 2 trillion, yeah, not much. Okay, but it's money that we don't have, money that we have to create IOUs, right? IOU bonds, U.S.
Okay,
bonds.
so 1.2% is what it comes to.
Yeah, true.
Of our budget.
True. It's $1 that I don't have, right?
Whoa, okay, but 1.2%, and if you are protecting commerce, or if you're protecting, if you're stopping Ebola from coming into the U.S., I mean, there is a value to some of what we're doing. And again, you can't say none of it, because you do have to spend to police and to ensure some of these don't reach our borders, or our borders are safe because of actions around the world.
So why not the rich companies around the world that they're not in debt like us, having $37 trillion in deficit? Why don't you step up?
Right. I'm sorry. Can I answer Tim real quick? So, a reason why we might have 2 million in debt every year, right? 2 trillion in debt every year, is because you got to also think about, right, our goods and services that we have here, but also everything is not sold in the year. It's stored here, right, and it's gone. So it's a process. Eventually.
No. I'm talking about federal spending.
Federal. Okay, the federal. All right.
Federal spending. $2 trillion in deficit, guys. We spent $7.2 trillion in 2023 in our federal.
Federal waste.
Was about 4.5. So think about that for a second here. We spent 0.2 trillion. In our federal government income was 4.5. So this is where the $2 trillion comes from every single year. And we print money. What printing money means? Devaluing of the dollar. And if we don't get the federal budget under control, we all screwed up. We hurt our kids and our grandkids. Think about for a second.
One of the things you said when you were talking about your 3 ways to raise money is the corporate tax. And if you move corporations back into our country, as opposed to both corporations and wealth leaving our shores, then, and that's one of the things he's trying to accomplish, is to incentivize corporations to come back here, incentivize taxpayers to buy American, to be able to deduct, one of his proposals is deduct car loans if it's a car manufactured in the United States, and to add that into the income tax equation, which had been prior but was taken out.
If you bring business in, if you bring a new corporation in the USA to invest in the USA, that by default is going to increase the corporate tax that they pay the federal government. So that's very helpful. Without penalizing you or I or other existing businesses here, because once you increase taxes on corporation here in America, right? Guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna leave. So the best thing to do is to expand the economy.
It's not increasing the taxes. It's making it welcoming for these corporations.
Exactly. That's what I said.
It's taking the regulatory structure and loosening the crazy regulatory structure that we have over manufacturing, which incentivizes these companies to now open plants in the U.S. and not have to go through, 30 different EPA requirements. I mean, just everything's got to lighten up, and the regulatory
100%.
structure has to, and then bring the businesses back.
That's 100%. You're right. 100%. Make America a business-friendly environment, so you can attract companies to come and do more business in America, so they can pay more corporate taxes, so we can close that federal deficit of $2 trillion a year. So if Elon Musk and Doge are able to knock down $1 trillion, right? Find this $1 trillion, right? Knock it down as a savings, right? And the other part of the equation, or the other lever, increase corporate taxes by allowing new corporations to come and do business in America. They pay us extra corporate taxes. Now we close the deficit. That's a first step. Stop the bleeding, so we don't borrow more money every single year. Now we need to go look back and how we're gonna pay our $37 trillion that we owe people. That's the problem.
But we're told that Elon's in it for his contracts. That's what we're told. It seems to be a dead-end conversation when that's brought up. You see what we're up against, right?
Yeah, that's a fear-mongering, Matt, because seriously, what Elon is doing is hurting some people with interest. People who were getting a lot of money from the federal government over the last few years, NGOs and others. They were benefiting from the federal government. So guess what? When you turn off the faucet on them, you get angry.
Exactly. And that's the thing. There's no good way of doing this. I mean, can anybody else give us a better way of doing this? Because, like you said, you're going to make a lot of people that were sucking out the tit of the government pretty angry, to a point where probably Elon's probably in pretty bad danger, actually, of his own life. You know what I mean? So that's what we're dealing with. It's like you're dealing with people that have an interest for themselves, clearly, and have no interest in helping the greater good for the country. I mean, I don't know why we're all missing that, but clearly we're on one side and they're on the other side.
So they are fighting the person who's trying
to save them money and protect their tax dollars. And it's just amazing, right? Like, yeah,
It makes sense, you know what I mean?
yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I guess part of the problem, by the way, Matt, is communication. I think the administration today depended only on Donald Trump to deliver the message, and maybe he is not delivering it the way he should be. You need someone to just explain to the American people, look, we are not touching Social Security. We are not touching Medicare. That way you neutralize those fear-mongering people that they coming and trying to attack Elon Musk. Look,
Dude, that happened already. He did that shit like since ten fucking times. Him and the people that he works with, like his officials, they came out into the fucking media and said it multiple times, even in the press briefs, even at the fucking press secretary's podium, we're not touching Social Security and Medicare. The other side just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, so they've been saying this shit. I don't know how many more times he has to say it, but he's been saying this shit.
And they still repeat the lie. You know how this goes. There's no communication. I mean, God could come down and reveal the message to everybody right now, and they'll still not believe Trump. I'm like, it's unbelievable.
Dude has denounced white supremacy and KKK and David Duke and all that shit 20 fucking times, and the media don't give a fuck. They still will ask the fucking question. They don't care. So to say that, well, he needs to come out and be more clear and explicitly say it, he's been doing that shit. He's been saying that shit.
Yeah, and ideally we would want that because clearly Trump is not the best communicator in the sense of explaining things because he's a firebrand and he probably just basically gave up on trying to do that. Obviously, you know what I mean. So he's at a point where it's like I'm just gonna do it, and like I said, there's no good way of doing this unless someone else can think of a better way of like doing this. I have no idea what that would look like. Go ahead, Adrian. Yeah.
Man, what the fuck did such and such say on the debate stage? We beat Medicaid. Didn't Biden say we beat Medicaid or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Donald Trump had that infamous, he had that most viral gaffe. He was like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck he said. Like, yeah, you beat Medicare already. Like, what the fuck? Like, the left, you honestly think that the left gives a fuck about statements like that? Donald Trump has said on the debate stage, I'm not touching Medicare. I'm not touching Medicaid. I'm not touching goddamn Social Security. They don't give a
we've got Adrian too. We've got to protect Medicare and Social Security. Look, I worked 25 years of my life and I paid Social Security. For me to retire, right, at age whatever, 62 or 67, right, and be able to collect Social Security. So it's in my interest that the Social Security system is protected. Now, if those fines, right, that we were paying people who don't deserve Social Security a lot of money, that need to be cut. That need to be exposed. Why would they pay, for example, illegal immigrant Social Security? Why would they need to pay illegal immigrant Medicare? Why would they need to pay foreigners who never been even in the USA? Never. We have $2 trillion.
Because it was to ensure that they have a permanent voter class. That's
sure. I got that, but I gotta protect Social Security for me, for myself. We paid for it all our lives. Guys, it makes no sense that, there is, 250 days of work a year. The average of us drives, wake up in the morning, get in the car, go to work, come back home. 110 days of those, we don't see $1 from. That's taxes we pay, income taxes, that's social security, that's all these things that we paid for. So if illegals or if there's fraud or an abuse in those systems, I need to find out. I need to clean that mess. I need to stop the fraud. Why Americans are against that?
Well, Barack Obama had the exact same point in 2011, in November of 2011. I can go find you the video. He said we need to cut out the waste, the fraud, and abuse in the federal government. Do you really think the left give a fuck that their own leader said that? No, they memory hold it. A lot of people don't even realize that Barack Obama said the exact same thing. Barack Obama envisioned a
Doge.
yes, he envisioned Doge. Like, honestly, what Doge is doing, Barack Obama wanted to do the exact same fucking thing. But for some reason, he didn't follow through.
And Chuck Schumer in the Senate, I heard him saying we need to clean up Medicare. We need to ensure that people that get the benefit from Medicare are eligible people. Chuck Schumer himself said that. I mean, the polarization, it's just too much, and our kids and grandkids will pay the price for that crap. And instead of us being united, why would a judge, in God's sake,
The last statement you said for our kids and our grandkids.
yes,
All right,
yes.
hold on, pause. Think about who you're trying to appeal to. You're appealing to a party that don't give a fuck about kids, right? They kill kids in the womb. They mutilate fucking children that are already here, and they're actually advocating for not having fucking kids. So you really think they give a fuck about the future for kids? No, they don't. You have to realize who the hell you're talking to, right? They don't give a fuck about kids at all. We shouldn't even want to have kids.
Which goes right into what I have is about to say, is that the future it is the future of our kids, and if they're not going to look out for them, we have to. You know what I mean? Go ahead. You're gonna talk there though.
No, I'm saying, man, I mean, there's some common sense stuff that I see around me that I would have expect, sane people, right, even average IQ to not to fight, to say, yeah, this is good for our country. Like, for example, right, all these, cartels and, that Trump or, trying to have them leave the country. I mean, is that bad? Is that bad? I mean, if I go ask 10 people in the street right now, I ask him, "Are you okay with this?" I mean, I would expect 10 of them to say yes, absolutely. It's the safety of our community. They are illegals. They are criminals. We do not want them here. So I find a judge, come and try to stop this. Why? Why?
You have to dress it up as we need to protect Medicaid and Medicare so it can cover the medical expenses for gender affirming surgeries. Maybe then they'll care. Dress it up like that.
And the influx of illegals is designed to alter the way we the voting and how the electoral college works and everything like that. This is all by design, so we're affected there. Let alone with the what do you call it, the not the pressure but the stress on the system for social services by these individuals coming here and all that. So you're right. I don't know why. I don't know why we let this. We've been trying to kill off this narrative, and I think we've done a pretty good job. I think the Democrat Party's pretty much getting a pretty good beating by us. I think we just got to keep the gas to the pedal. But I think they're going to come back with even more nonsense. What do you think, Adrian? Like, we're just seeing like the tip of the iceberg of all the silliness that these guys are up to. I think.
You just inadvertently discovered why the attacks against Elon is happening. It's because of what you just said. He exposed the plan to establish a permanent voter class, right? And to manipulate the electoral college by way of population, by way of open borders. He exposed that. That was their grand plan. And they are attacking for that.
100%, Adrian. I mean, if you think about this for a second, right? If you look at, the presidential election in some of the swing states, right? Whether that's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Georgia, North Carolina, whatever, right? The number of votes that swung the election in one direction was a few thousand people. So imagine dumping in 300,000 of illegal immigrants in one of these states. You turn it blue. Once you turn it blue, it will never come back red. That's it, right? Then you will have permanent California. Every state in the nation will be blue. Every state will be California. That means it's one party governing the nation forever.
One party rule.
Yeah, one party rule. This is exactly what happened in Europe. If you learn something from Europe with the idea of the European Union and what they've done with immigration, and now that that left wing EU, that's it. They are governing forever, and everybody that comes and try to challenge them, they will cancel election the way they did in Romania, right? Or neutralize you the way they have done with the AfD in Germany, right? Or threatening withholding money like what they did in Spain, right? So that's it. They are governing forever.
Actually, it's just a uniparty. So that they want to do what they're doing in California, like nationwide at the end of the day. And by the way, I don't know, Adrian, I don't know if you saw this, but did you notice that Kamala won all the states that had no voter ID and lost all the states that had voter ID?
Yep.
That's not a coincidence. I'm sorry.
That's not a coincidence. And look at how many counties Donald Trump won in California. In a Democrat stronghold, as tough as California is, he damn near flipped it red. He damn near. Go and look at that voter map. He damn near flipped California red. That is a feat within itself for a Republican.
I just cannot really understand the logic behind a person can go vote without showing his ID. Like, we drive cars without ID. We present our IDs when we go to the bank. We present our ID everywhere. So how come in the most holy duty of any American citizen, which is voting, you have a law that prevents anyone from asking for a voter ID? Really? What is the common sense? How could you just, in your little IQ brain, accept that as a resident of the great state of California? How could you accept that?
Well, for cheating, the logic that they had. Yeah. Remember Stacey Abrams' race in Georgia?
Yep.
And in one instance, they were touting record voter turnout in Georgia. But then, on the other hand, they were saying we're having voter suppression happening in Georgia. You can't have both at the same time. Which one is it? Is it record voter turnout or is it voter suppression?
I remember
Which
that.
narrative we want to go with? And they think that they can say both. They can push both narratives at the same time and think that people
And get
are
away
going to be wise. Exactly.
Yeah, it's no voter ID is designed. First of all, it's the bigotry of low expectations, right? They assume that nobody can get IDs from certain communities, underserved communities, which is like completely, in my opinion, as bad as it is for bigotry I can think of. You know what I mean? And then, of course, it's designed for cheating. We know what's going on. There's really no reason not to have some kind of identification for your voting. It's just the way it should be. Anything other than that is just like, okay, well, we're up for cheating. We're allowing this to happen. It's a green light for cheating. I mean, there's no other way to take it.
Well, Matt, let them tell it. I don't know how to get to the DMV to get an ID. I don't know how to use the internet. Let them tell it. Because if you let them tell the narrative why a lot of people don't have IDs, it's because we simply don't know where the DMV is.
That's an insult to the black people. Insult to any colored people.
Mm-hmm.
When you just insult them and tell them you do not know how to get an ID, that's an insult.
Do you remember Kathy Hutchell? I forget her name, the governor of New York, when she
Hochul.
Hochul, when she said that the black community doesn't know how to use computers. I mean, it's all the same rhetoric, right? There's this whole group that's not going to be able to do it, so they're going to be disenfranchised, and blah blah blah. I mean, how stupid do they think people are? Come on.
It's the condescension of the savior complex that they feel that they have over quote unquote marginalized groups. And so they have to come in and be the advocates for the indolent and the imbecilic. It's an insult. They don't see it as such, but it is. That's how out of touch with the American populace and the communities that they're advocating. I mean,
And that's fine. We can let them keep sinking themselves, right? We're fine. I mean, clearly their message is failing, and there would be no reason not to, have that continue, right? Because we'll just keep winning. Now, we don't want to, if there ever is a chance where there's actually a close election and all this, we want to make sure that this silliness is, not happening. Then we got to make sure we're on the ball. So that's the only reason why I would be concerned about it, obviously, because I mean, I don't know, like there's like a kind of a win thing going on here with, because their message is just horrible, like we just mentioned what we just said there, and other messages are just not winning over anybody. I don't even know what they're going to do for 2028. So I'll let them keep thinking it, but we have to be on the ball of the fact that maybe someday that's going to really matter, and I think it's going to. We're going to we got to make sure that our election integrity is all intact, so we can have those fair elections. And like I'm saying, like if a Republican loses, I'm okay with it as long as it's fair and square. It's like I'm not that, I'm not that embedded for the one party like that. That's like I just want a fair election.
I wish it was the other way. I want to celebrate victory for the country with others, regardless of their political affiliation. I wanted to say, all right, guys, let's work together. Look at the 37 trillion in debt. Look at how much we pay for interest on our debt. Look at the budget gap. I mean, can we work together doing all these great things, right? Removing waste and fraud and abuse from the system, and let's just generate jobs in America. Let's get the American people to get paid, well-paid jobs, right? I don't want to hire, an illegal immigrant that I pay him $10 an hour. I'd rather have an American work the job and makes 20, and let's do that. It's good for America. It's good for our country. We have nowhere to go. We have nowhere else to go. Where are we gonna go? Immigrate to Mexico? Where am I gonna go? There is no place for me to go. So let's save the country. Let's put our, you know, crazy polarization problem aside. Let's work together. What's wrong with that? I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want judge to come and tell me, no, go back and restore U.S. aid. Judge, these are fraud. No, let it go. Judge, okay. I want to, deport, criminals. No, let them go, let them stay. What are you doing? What are you doing?
These are compromised people. They've been bought and paid for. And it is what I call the suicide bomber mentality. They don't give a fuck if they kill themselves in the process as long as they hurt you. Wow. As long as they get a chance to hurt you, they will gladly carry out that action. It's like, bro, don't do this.
How good?
I just want to.
How good it is, Adrian, if the USA is burned and became ashes? Are they going to be happy governing the ashes? What's left of it? How good
Well,
is it?
they have a mentality of burn it all down. That's their mentality. So this is exactly what they want. They don't give a fuck if they're flying off a cliff as long as they can take it with them. These people are suicidal and despotic.
So the irony of it all is there was times where I was open to voting for a Democrat. And as funny as that sounds, like people are looking around going, this is a Trump house. Matt sounds like he's pretty beholden to the Republicans, if you want to call it that, and MAGA. But the thing is, I had no problem looking at Democrats to vote for, but the Democrats made it very hard for me to vote for those particular people because they didn't want them either. Like, and I'm talking about like Tulsi Gabbard, for example. I had no problem with her. I didn't voted for her over Trump even at some point. But the Democrat Party did themselves a disservice by eliminating anybody that others would vote for. So a lot of this is their own doing. It's not Trump. It's not Trump's fault. I mean, I don't even know why. They all blame Trump. They have to have an inner, realization that they're the ones that really created Trump in a lot of ways. So yeah, they created this monster, not us.
It's like in 1984. Have you ever read the book, or watched the movie?
Yeah.
Trump is essentially Emmanuel Goldstein, right? Remember what Emmanuel Goldstein represented and how the people just railed against him and turned against him, and everything that was wrong in their lives, they channeled all of their rage into hating Emmanuel Goldstein. That's who Donald Trump is. We are actually living out the 1984. We're at that part of the movie or the book where just the mere thought of him, his name, induces and evokes rage and hatred in people. That's what he is. I voted for one Democrat. His name was Wesley Bell, and not only because I know him personally, but the only reason I voted for him is so that he can unseat Cory Bush, and it happened.
I voted Obama first term. I remember those days. Obama ran against, I think, was John McCain.
Yeah.
So for me, the way I looked at it, young guy, African American, intelligent, speaks very well, lots of energy. I did the comparison.
But why does the party destroy themselves? Like, does 2008 look like anything like 2024 right now? It's not even close. They destroyed themselves over one person. It's incredible.
I can tell you how they did it.
Go ahead.
This was 12 years in the making for the Democrat Party. 12 years. Obama's first 4 terms. I mean, oh shit. First 2 terms. They should have been grooming a candidate, the Democrat Party, right? But they didn't. They sat back on their laurels because they figured that Hillary Clinton was going to be the heir apparent, all right? But what they did not count on in 2015 was, hey, Donald Trump coming down that fucking escalator, right? But even then, their hubris and their arrogance got the best of them because if you remember the polls, it said that she had a 92% chance of winning, all right? But a black swan event happened. He won. And so the first 4 years of Donald Trump, mind you now, that's 12 years. That's 12 years. Obama's 8 terms and Donald Trump's first 4 terms. They never groomed a candidate. They never spent time building up a quality fucking candidate. They spent more time investigating Donald Trump than legislating. So they wasted another 4 years there. Now here comes 2020. They knew they didn't have a deep bench. They didn't have a good stock of quality candidates. This is why you saw over 25 Democrats in the field vying for president. And one after another, they kept dropping because no one had any substance. They were not a strong enough candidate, and they just ate each other. They ate their own in the Democrat primary, right? So boom, when it became apparent to the Democrat Party that they have nobody, and that they were going to stick it to Bernie Sanders for a second time because he won Iowa. He won the Iowa caucus, smoked them in the Iowa caucus, but they did not want to embrace what he was talking about, and so they shafted him again, right? And so here they come trotting